In this video, I want to share some tips when using side scan or side imaging. This is a great tool to use when you can't necessarily look straight down onto structure. So if you're fishing things like this where you have bridge pilings, fenders, docks, and things like that that would be out to your side but holding fish, this could be great to use. Now, first tip I want to share is when you're using side scan. A bigger screen is always good, that way you can see more. However, if you're limited to a smaller screen, such as this one here, this is actually a 7-inch screen. What I recommend doing is keeping whatever structure you're trying to look at on one side of the boat. You can change the view. So you'll see here, I'll change the view to go view only the right side. Now what that does is it gives me a better view, a bigger view of the right side. So let's go ahead and troll here a little bit along some of this structure, and you'll see it come up on the screen. So there's nothing out to my left, there's no structure out there, so I only have it viewing the right side. And you're going to see these pilings come up here in a second, right there. Those are those pilings right there. Then you have a gap in between right there, and then the next pilings start right there. And you can see there's all sorts of stuff on the bottom. All of this is small bait fish and small fish mixed in there. Looks like bubbles on the screen. So as you notice, when we got close to that structure, we started seeing some more life out there. So again, if you want to have a better view of your screen, a bigger view so you can see more detail, just switch it to only one side, either right or left, depending on which side the structure is on in relation to your vessel. That'll give you a bigger image. Now, whenever you're going past structure, such as these pilings, what that sonar does is it basically, it's like a flashlight. It shines onto it, and then it's going to light it up, and then behind it, it's going to cast a shadow, which is why you'll see here in a second, as it comes up on the screen, you're going to see these pilings light up. They're going to look white, and then you're going to see a dark area behind it, and that's the shadow. So there, the pilings are lit up, and then behind it, you can see it's dark. It casts a shadow, and that's the same thing it's going to do when it lights up on a fish or a school of fish. It's going to light those fish up individually as white marks, and then behind it you're going to see a shadow, and oftentimes you may actually see the shape of the fish as the shadow. Now, something else with these side imaging machines is the color palette. A lot of people don't know what color to choose. I prefer to choose a color that has a really good contrast. So the blue palette tends to work really well. As you can see, there's good contrast between light and dark, and as you switch through some of these, you're going to notice a little bit of a difference in contrast. The better the contrast, the better the image is going to be, and the more you'll be able to see. So again, that blue just seems to be a sweet spot when it comes to a good palette to use for color contrast. Now, the last tip I want to share has to do with the range. Up here, you're going to see these numbers. That's going to be how far out to the side it is scanning. So right now I have it set to 40. If I have it set too far out, let's say I have it set to 100 feet, the image gets smaller. So you're able to see more area, but the image is going to get a lot smaller, and you're not going to be able to see as much detail. So if you're going after like sheep's head or some of those smaller species, it's going to be hard to pinpoint them on the screen. If you go smaller, you zoom in, you get a lot more detail of what's going on there on the screen. So again, just some quick tips I wanted to share when it comes to using side scan. Great tool to use when you're fishing structure that you can't necessarily sit right on top of. You can see out to the side. And if you're too shallow, you don't really want to be on top of structure, because you're just going to spook the fish that you're trying to catch. And if you need help finding those fish you're trying to catch, I highly recommend checking out our site at saltstrong.com. We have a ton of free content out there that will help you start catching more fish. So be sure to check that out at saltstrong.com. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them down below.